Kathryn Jones, we're live. How are you?
Forti, we're live. How are you doing?
I'm so good. How are you?
I'm doing great, actually.
Yeah?
Amazing. Yes.
Where do we find ourselves in this part of the world today?
Listen, we're just a little bit south of Salt Lake City, and it's gorgeous. I just went on a run this morning.
Nice.
And it's like we got some corona things going on, but all in all, state of Utah is a beautiful place to be.
Okay, let's talk about this for a second. This whole state of Utah. You know who Nas Daily is?
Who is? No.
Nas big. He's not even a YouTuber. He's a Facebooker. He's like, I don't even know where he's from originally, but he does these viral videos, and he's done like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them. Super good guy, like all positive vibes, all like super. You'd love him, honestly. I'll have to send you a clip. But he did a video the other day, and he goes, I forget what the name of it was, but it was like the most secret, unknown gems in all of America, right? And it's like some super, intriguing headline or whatever. And he goes, and he shows all these beautiful clips of like mountains and salt flats and like, just beautiful things. And he goes, and this is the state of Utah. And I was like, yes! I just was talking to Brad about this. Utah is like this hidden gem of a place, I feel like.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's so amazing. Well, and I think it can be deceiving sometimes because Utah, it's like there's one interstate. It goes north and south. And basically everything is like along this interstate. And the interstate's pretty ugly. Like, it's just ugly. It just is. Like, you drive up and down and you're like, I think I'm good. I think I don't like this place. But if you veer off, especially toward the mountains, it's like you veer off for 5 minutes and you're like, oh my gosh, is this the most gorgeous place? So like literally I live it's called Lehigh, and they call it like Silicon Slopes because there's all this like hub stuff. It's just like 20 minutes.
Yeah. I've heard that.
So I live right here in like a booming entrepreneurial city, and I'm 7 minutes away from the mouth of the canyon. And I'm 20 minutes away from Salt Flats. And I'm 30 minutes away from like, literally you drive 30 minutes south and it's like farmland USA. Like,
so
Utah's so fun too. It's cozy. Like there's like old towns, like where you're like, oh my gosh, like people are just still, there's like movie theaters that show one movie per week still that are just like around, that have just like been in families forever.
That's so crazy.
But then you just go up to the city and it's like a normal big city. So it's a super dynamic place.
So you've got mountains, you've got canyons, you've got salt flats, you got farmland, and you have like tons of lakes and stuff everywhere, which are super, super beautiful.
Yes.
And the people there are super, super nice. And I'm wondering if this whole, like, this ugly highway is there on purpose to, like, keep everybody away.
Maybe.
Because in the comment section of that video from, like, Nas Daily, like, all the top comments were like, please remove this video. We don't want people invading our space. Like, stay away. Like, this is our protected space. So...
It really is. It really is amazing. I was on the phone with my parents yesterday or 2 days ago. They had their 33rd wedding anniversary. We're so happy for them. So I was like, parents, we're so happy for you. And a lot of their kids. So there's 8 of us.
Are you the oldest?
I'm second oldest. I'm the older brother.
That's right.
Yeah. And so a lot of us have moved to Utah. And so once my youngest sister, she's a senior in high school right now. So after she leaves, they're kind of like, well, I don't know, should we move too? And so they were asking like, where should we move in Utah? Because there's all these different places. And it's amazing. Like the college town where I was at Brigham Young University, it's called Provo. It's like this booming place where like huge bands come and play, and like the music scene's crazy and amazing, and like so many like fun food trucks and farmers markets and festivals. But they also will do like full-fledged like fairs with like Ferris wheels and parades, and so it's like this like small town feel. But
it must be all those Mormons out there.
It must be the Mormons.
Those darn Mormons out there.
Those darn Mormons, all that community.
Just having parties out there and not telling us all about them.
Oh yeah, it's a beautiful place. So listen, it is a hidden gem for sure. But I think selfishly, anybody that's listening to this, you're probably in somewhat of like the entrepreneurial take over the world space.
Yeah, for sure.
Like I always want those friends. So I'm telling you, don't tell anybody else, but you guys should come.
So if you're an entrepreneur, if you're cool, if you want to change the world, go to Utah. Kathryn invites you. But if you're not, stay away because we don't like you.
Exactly.
Well, we love you, but you're not cool enough to. Okay. All right. I like that. I'm down with that. Okay. So we have lots to talk about today. I feel like
always.
What's it like to be... Okay, actually, let's talk about this here real quick, too. I feel like a lot of people wonder what it's like to be Kathryn. You ever feel that way or no?
What do you mean?
Well, I feel like you tease a lot, right? Like you'll show snippets of your life, but you never actually give like the full story background except for things. And then you'll get on stage at Funnel Hacking Live and you'll be like, hey, boy comes into my life, tells me I'm no good basically, and tells me I can't mother an entrepreneur, and then breaks my heart, blah, blah, blah. End of story, no more context, and I'm gonna go into my thing. And we're all like, wait, what happened, right? Like what else, right? Or like, oh, you tell us about these beautiful things, but how come you never told us that Utah was so beautiful, right? Like why is this the first time we're hearing about it? So like, what's going on in your world? Like
Oh my gosh,
what's the head of Kathryn look like in kind of your world?
This is such a good question. Well, and I would honestly, I'm so excited to hear your take on this as well, because I think as like a leader of a tribe, especially online, right? Like I think the reason people follow you, the reason people gather around you is twofold. Like one, hopefully like they come into your space and you make them better.
Right.
Right.
For
like,
sure.
And whatever facet that looks like, whether it's mindset or business or whatever, you make them money, whatever. But I also think too, to be like a trusted leader, like I know people I follow that I just feel connected to them. I mean, they have no idea who I am, but I'm like, they are my friends. And like full-fledged example, when Rachel and Dave Hollis announced they got divorced, I am not ashamed to admit this, I wept for 30 minutes. Like I literally wept I was just like, what?
Right.
I was like, they're my friends.
Right. Right. It'd be like if Russell and we shouldn't put that out there into the universe, but like if that were to happen, you know what I mean? You'd be like, oh my gosh, you'd break your heart.
But different from Russell in the sense that like, I've never talked to Rachel in my life.
That's true. For most people.
I've never talked to Rachel, and but it's really interesting, and I've actually looked back a lot on that. Like it was crazy. My friend Ezra, he like loves Rachel Hollis as well. Do you follow the Hollises at all?
Yeah, I know who. I mean, I don't follow them closely, but I know exactly who you're talking about. But you're not talking about Ezra Firestone as your friend, or
no.
Oh, okay, I was gonna say casual friend.
He went to college. He was like my brother's college roommate, and so we all became friends.
Gotcha.
Anyway, but we do like Rachel Hollis has like this like start today journal and like all this stuff. So we just like believe in the Hollises, and they're just fun. And I think so much of, anyway, so he texted me and he was like, the Hollises are getting divorced. And I remember it was like 6 o'clock and I was planning on working for like an hour and a half more before I was going to like go meet up with some friends. And it hit me in my soul. I was like, what? I was like, no. I was like, how do you know this is, I was like, fake news. I'm like, how do you know this? Go. And he's like, it's on their Instagram. So I go check, and like, sure enough, they had to like decide to get divorced. And like, it was the most interesting thing that I just wept. Like, it was so sad for me. And it was really interesting. Like, I'm trying to analyze, because it was like this like reaction, just this normal, right? It wasn't this like, I'm really sad, I'm gonna cry. It was just like, I saw it and like tears like came out of my face, and I'm trying to interpret why am I having such a reaction?
Right.
to people I don't know them.
Never met them, right?
I've never had a conversation with them in my life, and I for 30 minutes am like hard, like deep crying, like stop me in my work. Like I went to my bed and I just literally like looked through their Instagram and I'm like crying.
Oh like, my gosh.
How could this happen?
Right.
And it was so interesting for me. So we share the same coach, Katie.
Oh,
so
shout out,
I
Katie.
eventually am like, Katie, I'm having a really odd reaction right now. And I'm weeping over people I don't know. And I was like, what is going on? And it was like this really beautiful conversation that we ended up having. And like for me to become like aware and conscious that even though they hadn't met me, like their influence had like totally altered my life. And so much of what they were is what I hoped to have. And so and I think like this type of partnership and relationship that I'm like seeking to have and create, I think it's pretty unique.
Yeah.
In the sense where it's like, I want to take over the world, and I want somebody who wants to take over the world and almost with me.
Yeah.
Right? Like that was the beauty of a Rachel and Dave Hollis. That's different even from like a Sarah Blakely and a Jesse. It's like they kind of have their own things, right?
Yeah.
But, like they were together and building this like empire together. And like I just don't know another role model like that. And so for that to fall apart, it was really interesting for me to be like, is the dream dead? Like It was so fascinating to like, once I was conscious of it, like how much of my identity was held in this vision of this people that I followed on Instagram. Like I followed on Instagram, like I bought their books and I bought some of their products, but like I'm not even in their coaching programs.
Right.
It's Instagram and IGTV videos and YouTube. But like I cannot tell you, like there were certain truths that they taught me that just pulled me through it. So I think when you ask this question, like, what's it like to be Kathryn Jones? I think as a leader, you have this like really delicate responsibility
Yeah.
to be um, authentic and vulnerable. But I do think the word is delicate as well. I think it was like this really interesting like moment for me to recognize how all of my actions can influence people,
Yeah.
even those that don't know me. And sometimes it feels like that's not real, but especially like when you're a course creator or a coach or you have YouTube or a podcast, right? It's like people have spent hundreds and hundreds of hours with you that you have no idea who they are.
Right.
Like
Right.
they literally listen to your voice for hundreds of hours, and if you were to see them on the street, you would be like, I don't know who you are.
Right. But they
And it
know
was
so much about
and I
you.
think whenever I go to a conference or like even at Funnel Hacking Live, like people come up and are weeping at me, but they're like, "You have changed my life."
And
I'm
you're
like,
like,
blah, blah. And I'm like, "Hi," and they're like 55-year-old men, right? And I'm like, "I don't." And you're just like, "Tell me your story," right? But I'm like, I don't know who you are. But then you
right.
forget that they've spent so much time and all these things with you. And so in this like going back to like, how come we never heard about this boy when this boy was happening?
Right.
Or like, why don't we ever hear about Utah? Or why don't we ever hear about these things? I think again, it's like this really delicate, I think, responsibility and opportunity as a leader to share things that I think will be helpful.
But also
And
you have to be aware of like, if you share certain things, they can affect certain people certain ways. So you have to be careful about what you share, especially in the moment.
yes,
And I think,
and what's interesting too, I even think too, because like, I think so much of my life is public. So much of my life is public. To It's like this interesting thing, like my dating life, everybody and their dog has an opinion on it. Like I cannot tell you how, and like
no.
people are so nice and they try and set me up all the time. Like my DMs are like, "Hey, would you want to meet my brother?" Or like or like, "Hey, blah blah," or like people trying to hit on me online and like all this stuff. And like honestly, like to a degree, it's like, thank you. Like it's so kind. Like
Right.
it's so nice of people to be like, yes, like all this stuff. But I even think about like um to date somebody and then to like immediately throw them into this world where you have like a ton of followers that have opinions on everything, like um I think again it's a delicate situation,
Yeah.
like a
Well,
very delicate thing, especially when the relationship itself could be delicate in the fact that it's starting and you're learning, and then to throw on like, okay, well, how do we fit you into my messaging,
yeah, but
and how
by
do we and what are we gonna do, like blah blah, and what do people, and then all of a sudden, and I think people too, it's just this natural inclination to be like, well, what's happening,
right.
and again, just being again this like delicate, really heavy responsibility to make sure like what is it that I'm leading on, and when I
Right.
introduce new concepts or people, like to make sure that um they're ready, I'm ready, the world's ready.
Well,
And so I think
yeah.
like with the boy breaking my heart situation, I didn't share it because I couldn't breathe.
Well,
Like
and
I
I
was
think Natalie Hodson made a good point about that too. When I interviewed her, Natalie said, "I like to share scars, not open wounds." And I was
yeah,
like, I
I
feel
think
that,
that's really
right?
beautiful.
Like, I think there's times to share open wounds,
Yeah,
aka when my brother passed away. It was like so immediate, so public, and so open, and like, I mean, literally CNN and Fox News were covering it. You know what I mean? Like you can't really get away. It's not like, oh yeah, my brother passed away, I'll talk to you, later. It's like everywhere, and thousands of people are talking about it, and it's all over the internet, right? Like, in times like that, you do need to share the wounds, but there's also a lot of
totally,
times when you're like, you just need your own time to go through and process something before you're going to share it with your
totally.
followers, because like you said, everybody has an opinion. And
Everybody has an opinion.
and the internet's
And
not afraid to share those opinions.
no, but I do think though, I think like somebody listening to this could be like, well, like Kathryn, then you're not authentic. If you're not sharing everything, then how can we trust you? Like how can we actually trust you? And I think one of the most like powerful lessons that I ever learned is from, she's also an entrepreneur. She's like crazy good at high ticket closing. Her name's Brooke Evans.
Mm.
And
Shout out
she
Brooke. I know, Brooke.
Shout out to Brooke. She's amazing. And actually, she was my boss we worked like a corporate
I
job.
remember that.
And then I was like, the internet? And then I was like, oh my God, Brooke. I'm like, you're better than this. I'm like, come with us. And then she left. And then Lisanne, who she did your ads for your launch. She does my ads as well.
She's amazing.
She was my 2-up boss and Brooke's boss. So that we both pulled her and we all came together. But I remember something she told me, and this was like before the internet. This was like just like a soul to soul, like try to become your best self type of conversation. And she said, she's like, in my opinion, the most powerful people are those that don't have modes. And I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean modes? And she was like, they're the people that don't have work mode and mom mode, or in front of a camera mode or off a camera mode. There's no presentation. It's just like when you meet them, it's Kathryn. Like it's just Kathryn. And I think like similar, and I think you get this a lot too, because I don't think you have modes. Like where people meet you in real life and they're like, hey, you're just how you are on video. Or like I'll do a podcast interview and people will be like, you're just the same. And I'm like, I think I don't know how to be.
Yeah. I think I get what she's saying there. I do think that everybody has modes in the sense of like I have good days and bad days. I'm focus mode and I have fun mode. But I understand what you're saying as far as like you're the same person online as you are offline.
Yeah.
Is what you're going for.
And in what you're sharing and what you're not sharing, it's not a matter of deception.
Right. Yes, 100%. Right.
It's just like.
Well, and I think the other thing about sharing like that too is, someone can say you're not truly being authentic. I would say being authentic means you're being yourself. And a lot of times when you're going through something, you've got to figure out who you are in that moment, right?
Totally.
Like you can't share who you are or be yourself if you don't know what yourself looks like. You know what I mean?
And I even think good things too, right? Like some of the work that I love that I'm doing with my coach right now is like understanding like what are the true intentions behind what I'm doing, good and bad. Like have you taken the Enneagram test? Have you heard of the Enneagram test?
Enneagram test? No.
Enneagram. It starts with the E-N-N. Oh my gosh, Josh, you have to take it. Okay. So it's like it's a personality test. Okay. And it's like 1 through 9 and all these different things. And
I love personality tests, so I'll have to take it.
Oh, they're so fun. They're the best. And I am like off the charts a 3, which is achiever. Like all of my actions are like achieve. So it's like I like working out way more if there's like a program, like a 90-day program, than if it's just like the joy of running. Or it's like I like hiking if I'm climbing to the top of a mountain, but not just to be in nature. Like all like and yeah, like I love it. And it's like I think that's why I love books so much. There's a beginning and there's an end.
Okay.
I think that's why I love like internet marketing so much. Like I'm like a very project-based person, right? Like you finish, like you start and then you finish. And so and then my second one, like you have like a sub one, is perfectionist.
Oh,
so
gosh.
It's like not only do I like to win, but I like to win and be better than everybody else. And again, double-edged sword on both things, right? Double-edged sword. And so I think it's really interesting, like even as you're sharing your wins, right? Where it's like, as a leader, right? Like what type of people what kind of person am I trying to be, and what type of people am I trying to build? And like when I share this big grand thing, who's it serving? Is it serving me or is it serving them? Like, is this an ego stroke or is it like
truly of service? Yeah,
truly of service. And I think that's been like a really interesting thing to be conscious of.
Do you find yourself changing what drives you though? Because like one of the things I noticed about myself was like, especially pre-Katie, right? Which
the dark ages.
Katie, right. Seriously though, it's like a whole.
We call them the dark ages.
Yeah. The way I describe it, and it's always so funny, is the way I describe it is like imagine. Like you're playing a video game, because I look at life as a game, and I actually view life that way. Like I actually view life as just a series of levels that I'm trying to achieve to become, reach whatever goal that I'm trying to achieve, right? But like imagine there is someone that knows every cheat code possible in life, right? But you can only get those cheat codes once you're ready for those cheat codes. But you can go to that person and ask them whenever it is that you think you're ready, or like whatever questions you have to get to the next level. That's Katie. And then she like gives cheat codes to you. And like, it's just a best way to live life. But like, if you have 25 cheat codes, it is just fundamentally impossible not to play the game better than somebody that has no cheat codes, right? It's not that you're better than them. You just know how to play the game fundamentally better than they do. And it's so crazy interesting. That's why I feel like Katie is. But anyway, going back to the original thing, like, I feel like for me, pre-Katie, like, I was very much driven by external validation of others. And because of that, I was always trying to prove myself to others, right? I wanted to have the biggest Facebook group, make the most amount of money, drive the right car, have the right house, say the right things, speak on the right stages, all good things, right? Nothing bad with those things, but that driving underlying factor behind them was to impress others, right? Because that's where I got this validation. But then as I kind of grew and as I started to, which I'm sure she started with you in the same place, it's like, know thyself, right? Who are you, right? That core underlying question of it all. As I kind of got to do that, I almost feel like I lost motivation to go do things. And I've told Katie this before, because I stopped actually doing them to impress anybody, right? Like, I didn't buy my Jeep to impress anybody. I'm not in the business that I'm in to impress anybody. I don't have a podcast to impress anybody anymore, right? And so I'm on this thing where I'm like, yes, I like to achieve things, but it's like I've driven to do far less things and to do those far less things more completely and more all the way through, and only when I decide that that's what I want. Do you find yourself like changing as you grow, like those underlying factors?
Okay, first of all, beautiful. Second of all, we geeked out about books like a few days ago.
Oh, do you have your book suggestions ready?
Oh, always and forever.
Okay,
but
good.
one of the books that like just it like a seismic shift. And it's interesting because I think there's some books that you read where it's like you're 3 pages in, you're like I feel the magic.
Right. You're like I'm ready.
Like, something happened to me already. Like I know. Yep. And then there's some books where you're just like, well, okay. And then there's a moment or there's a story and there's one thing that comes from it. And I think that's one of the reasons like I made this rule for myself that if I ever want a book, I'll buy it.
Yeah, I saw you post something about that. Was it Ezra Firestone? Or no, it was
Ramit.
Ramit
has this rule in his life, and I'm like, I love that rule. If there's ever a thought to buy a book, I buy the book. It's just how it is. Because and I've been able to like see this because even a single idea from that, from a $12 book, right, can change like the entire trajectory of your life.
Yeah.
So one of those, like, again, the entirety of the book, fascinating, but there was one moment in this particular book. It's by our boy Ryan Holiday. God bless him. He's amazing.
I'm reading another one of his books right now. I read it for an
Which
hour.
one?
Conspiracy. Oh my gosh.
Okay, I haven't read that one yet.
Well, it just came out recently. And do you know who Peter Thiel is?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Billionaire, investor, PayPal, Facebook, all that jazz, whatever, right? He's gay, all right? And Gawker, which was a huge media company back in the day, right? Like they were on the, I don't want to say started like gossip, but like they were a huge player in online gossip, and they would just like create these crazy rumors and say crazy things, whatever. They outed him as gay. All right. And it was like a huge invasion of privacy. And he got so stirred up over it. But like so many people had tried to come after Gawker and they would win every time. Like nobody could touch them. Right. And so it's this entire behind the scenes look at, because Ryan Holiday was one of the few people that literally got to talk to both Peter and the founder of Gawker and saw both sides. And it's this entire conspiracy of how Peter Thiel literally went and created this entire conspiracy to bring down Gawker, wins this $180 million lawsuit, and gets the entire like multi-$100 million media conglomeration that nobody could touch, just completely shuts them down. And it's the story of that from Ryan freaking Holiday. I'm like, have you ever read Trust Me, I'm Lying?
That's what I'm gonna. It's like, okay, we're gonna buy that book right after this.
Right. And have you read Trust Me, I'm Lying?
Oh, no, Holiday? I haven't read that one yet either. Unreal.
We'll have to get to these, but like,
okay,
if you read that one and this one, it's gonna be amazing. Anyway, continue. Okay, Ryan Holiday, the book.
Okay, he's amazing. He's spoken Funnel Hacking Live as well. It's like, we hate him, how smart he is. One of his books is Ego is the Enemy. Have you read Ego is the Enemy? Of course. Okay.
Physical book, audiobook, have it all.
Okay, amazing. So there's one, it's a paragraph in there. And it is like, when I read it, it was just like this. You know, you have those moments where it's like head and heart, and it was just like ching, and you're like, that is my truth. Like, like that, like he used the words that I felt in my heart that I was like trying to find. And this is what he says. He says, in talking about progression and achievement and ego and trying to impress people and all that stuff. He says, anybody can win. He's like, you can be smart and win, you can be dumb and win, you can be lucky and win, you can be an a-hole and win. He's like, anybody can win. Anyone can win. He's like, there are only a very few select amount of people who are actually striving to become the best versions of themselves. And he said, that is the game to play. End quote. And I was just like, and
Game
all of a sudden
over.
you start to realize this. And what's so beautiful, right, about like all these things you're talking about, like biggest Facebook group and in the car, in the house, and the podcast, and all, like if you're actually playing the right game,
Yeah.
the game of becoming, the game of the truest version of yourself, of shedding the ugly, of pushing out the darkness, right? Like you're actually playing that game, then all these accolades, they're byproducts.
Right.
Like they're actually byproducts, but they're supercharged with almost this like magic, because all of a sudden there's just like authenticity and genuity just like pulsing through them. And I think I think again it's the product of a lot of our mentorship with Katie, but like this, like people gravitate toward you and they stay with you. And same with my community, like my design hackers, they are evangelists.
Yes.
Like they're not just like, oh cool, let me follow Kathryn. They share my stuff, and they're like, they
diehards.
They are diehards.
Right.
But I think that's the reason, is they can sense that the game that they're playing, even if the only thing that they really bought into was learning how to design funnels that convert, right? It's like, we're actually trying, like the doctrine, the big principle, the overall objective is how can you become the truest version of yourself?
Right.
And all these things are just subsections of that.
And I love that, because I believe for a lot of people, they don't realize that you're playing a different game, but they know the effect when they see it, right?
Okay, but this is crazy though. Okay, so, and I'm sure you've experienced this as well, literally blowing my mind. And I can't wait to hear your experiences on this. So here, like lowly little baby Kathryn, right? Like here she is, 2014, discovers the internet. Like, oh my gosh, you can make money online. This is incredible.
Right.
Then 2016-ish, about a year and a half, 2 years later, I discovered ClickFunnels and funnels. It's like I can't even handle the intelligence of it all.
Right.
And I'm just like, thank you. And it's just like amazing, which is why .com Sneakers, I know it's like everybody's book, but it is on my book, because I literally wept when I discovered value ladders, because I'd been reading all these business books and everybody had like all these different opinions. And finally I was like, oh, like this is how I can organize this book, and this is how this goes in, like blah, blah. And I was like, oh, I finally understand how it works. Anyway, so like discover all this stuff. And so it's been like this really interesting thing to like go from like 2016 Kathryn to like become a certified partner and like actually get into the community, become a leader in the community, become friends with Russell, and like speak on the stage. And all of a sudden all these people that like I bought their courses and I fangirled over them. Like for me to now be a peer and a leader to them has been this like really interesting experience, and to be invited into rooms where before it was just like they're the untouchables, right? Like no, like they're the magic, they're like all these things. And I will say, I think to every one of them is extraordinary in their own right, but it is fascinating to go into those rooms and you can in an instant detect who's chill with themselves and who's
it's so crazy. It is
insane.
Nuts.
It's
you know
literally
it. You right.
Nuts.
Yep.
And
yep.
it's crazy.
100%.
And like the same thing, like I'm telling you what, like it's like this. It's like they can't hide from themselves, but it's this crazy. It's like this. You can feel it when you're talking to them. It's like this panic to like, and one of the clearest indicators. So I often, I'm in a lot of the same memberships as Brooke and Lisanne, my two best friends and business friends. So we'll go all the time and together. And it is fascinating in all of the conferences that I've been to or spoken at. And like, it's been a lot, right? I can think of 3 particular instances, 3 people total.
Wow.
Where I was like, they're chill with themselves.
Are you going to tell us who they are or no?
Oh, sure.
Okay. Yeah. We definitely want to know this.
And I will tell you the indicator, like the biggest indicator. And that's not to say like where you like, I think as human beings, we're not just one thing. I think we are good and we are bad. We are light and we are dark. And that is the battle, right?
For sure. All the time.
And so I'm not trying to like dismiss all other people that aren't on this list, but the 3 people that I was like, you are magic. And you know, when you meet those people where you're just like, you know, that you're living in a way that I don't quite understand.
100%.
And I want to be like you. Oh my gosh. The first one was Ryan Lee. Amazing.
Ooh,
Cash flow.
shout out Ryan Lee.
Shout out
well
to Ryan.
done, sir.
And all the characteristics are the same, but I'll tell you what they were. That man, so first of all, he's so cool, and he's my neighbor of like 6 minutes, which is also
That's
amazing.
awesome.
Another reason to come to Utah.
We're making a trip out there. It's happening.
Yes, come.
Yeah.
There was zero intention, need, anything for him to tell me what he did. He was 100% tell me everything about you. Tell me everything about you. And I think one of the characteristics that I always try to emulate is this word meekness. And I think oftentimes people can interpret meek as weak, where it's like, oh, like,
yeah,
subdued.
no.
But I think meek is certain. And I think the qualification of that is either in any interaction you have, regardless of if they own a multi-billion-dollar company, or they are just who knows who, right?
Right.
Is you can always learn something from someone or something about someone.
Love it.
Always. And so I meet him at the airport where, like, Paul and I, my branding director, we come into the airport, and we're both going to the Gaylord Opryland.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, he's like, let's share an Uber. And the whole time he's like, I'm so happy for you that you're speaking. Tell me everything. And he's asking Paul, and he's asking me.
I
and
love
like,
Ryan.
And
He's so cool.
I keep trying to be like, wait, no, tell me about you. And he's like, we have plenty of time to get to me. He's like, I want to hear the story.
Right.
And like,
right.
and it was just like, and it wasn't like he was trying to hide, like, no, but he was just like, like, I can sense the worth in you, and I want to know.
Love it.
What it is. And it was just like, oh my gosh. I was like, that's amazing. Same thing.
So number one is
Alex S. Elliott.
Alex S. Elliott. Okay.
Amazing. Same situation where there was no need to prove something. It was just like,
love it.
Like, who are you? And I want to know about you, not for the agenda, because I want to be associated with your name. It was just like, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
Like,
so cool.
what are you doing here? And it was just like amazing. And I think it is this really interesting thing, and maybe more unique, because I think you're this way as well. Like, you're really inquisitive.
Yeah. I want to figure everybody out.
Yeah, where you're just like, tell me about your life. Who are you? Like, blah, blah. And so to have somebody reciprocate that is like probably a pretty unique experience, I would guess, for you as well.
Oh, yeah. It doesn't happen.
Oh, wait, Josh, like, no, you tell me about you.
Yeah.
Like, what are you working on? Like, what are you thinking about? Like, blah, blah. And you're like, oh my gosh, thank you.
Yeah. Well, because you're like,
asking about my life.
Right. You're like, you have enough big ideas going on in your head, right? You're like, I don't know who thinks I'm crazy and who's not. So like when you find someone that's genuinely asking, right?
Yes.
Like
genuine.
I that's one thing that I really, really strive to be around people, is just very genuine, right?
Yes.
Because if I can take a genuine interest in what it is that you're looking to be or become or do, then you'll open up, because I know how good that feels. Because like I was talking to Leah about this the other day, right? Leah's done a lot of traveling. She's traveled all over the world, and she's gone through crazy experiences or whatever. And she's like, I don't talk about my travels. She's like, you have to actually like be interested and ask me and pull it out of me. Otherwise, I'm just like, no, I'm not going to talk about me. We'll talk about you, right? Because it's like, I don't want to burden you with what I'm doing. I'm super excited about it, but like, it's a different world, right? Like, it's not what the normal person thinks about or does or like asks about. You know what I mean? So I totally feel that 100%.
Yeah. And then the other one, I was just looking him up because I only know his Instagram handle. And I was like, wait, what's his last name again? But his name's Adam Flores, and he's amazing. He runs this big business, and he's like kind of on the edge of the funnel world.
Nice.
But similar situation where
shout out
like,
Adam.
I've seen your stuff. It's like amazing. And it's just so fascinating where, like, even these people that are pushing millions to hundreds of millions of dollars, right, are like, let me tell you how great I am.
Right.
Let me make sure, like, you might be new here, but let me tell you like where I stand in this realm. And
okay,
and again, you're just like, okay, cool. Like, and you're like, it's amazing what you've done. And I think if I hadn't done a lot of work to be chill with myself, I'd be like, oh my gosh, they hate me. Like, he's trying to, and you like have these like 45 to 60-year-old men who are trying to bully this 29-year-old, 28-year-old girl. Like, it could be totally interpreted that way. Right.
100%.
But in reality, and I do think it's this interesting thing, especially as a young woman in this space. Like,
okay, hold that thought. I want to get there, but there's one thing, like, I want to cover something else before we get in that conversation, because that's definitely the angle that I want to go. But before we go into that, and I know like this conversation is really flowing well, I want to get into books. I want to go into what it's like being a woman in entrepreneurship. But before that, I feel like I need to give you time and platform to say, Kathryn, I know that you have a really big, amazing launch coming up. And I feel like everybody should know about this, because when I found out about this, I was immediately like, Kathryn, come on to my show. Tell everybody how amazing and exciting this is. And so guys, like, yes, 100% this is promotion. Kathryn did not pay me to be on here. Like, you guys should all go and listen and consume everything that Kathryn tells you, because obviously she's amazing. But Kathryn, what do you have coming up?
Oh my gosh, it's crazy that you would ask. What a coincidence.
What's a coincidence?
August 3rd. That's what you guys need to know is when we're dropping this, but I'll let you guys know a little bit sooner because you're my friends.
Amazing.
So if you're listening to this before or after, but essentially if you guys have been paying attention, and it's really fun, our audience has been able to feel like something's happening in the design hacking world. Like, you guys are shifting. And there's this like, and there's this build. And what we're doing, and I think the thing that we're really excited about is that this concept of design hacking is so freaking powerful.
Yeah.
And it's so much more than just building funnels, right? Like, the definition of design hacking is, how do you present stories that convert?
Yeah.
How do you actually do that? And not just in a funnel, but in video and podcast and stage and copy and Instagram lives and Facebook stories. And what's super fascinating, especially we've been working on our stuff and our client stuff, is like, it's almost annoying how the patterns are amongst the different mediums. Like, again, like annoying in the sense where it's like, why is nobody talking about this?
Right.
Like, this is like crazy. And I think what is like so exciting is that the result of what happens when you tell stories that convert, because you're like, okay, that's cool, but you're like, meh, okay, right? It's like, it's not that sexy, right? It's like, tell stories that convert. You're like, okay. But what's so fun, and what we've been able to experience and help our clients do as well, is like, when you can tell stories that convert, when you can present information in a way that will convert, literally meaning transforming somebody from one form to another, right? You are able to go from a literal no name in your space to becoming the number one go-to expert in your niche.
100%.
And I think the thing that is like, and the reason we know, like, that's the journey we went on. Like, me and my team, like, last year, 2019, April, May, people just didn't know who I was.
Yeah.
They just didn't know. And it was me and one other part-time contractor in the Philippines. That was my team. Right. And we are just scrambling to get people into our flagship program, CF Design School, like, just scrambling. And our competitors are just getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and like backed by these billion-dollar companies. And they have way more credibility, way more experience, way more people on their team, way more money, way more ad budget.
Right.
And I remember, like, I was watching one of my competitors I went to a conference and they were on stage presenting, and I'm like a nobody in the crowd. Like, I don't even have premium seating, right? It's like, I'm in the back. Like, it's not even like, oh, like, you're making your way. It's like, I'm not making my way. Like, I got to the room somehow.
You're not Kathryn Jones yet. You were the startup version.
I'm just trying, right? You know, just like, oh my gosh. And I remember, like, all the way in the back watching her, and it was kind of this like weird moment, right? Because you're, it's like the world just seems so much bigger when the people that you're trying to compete against are on a stage. You know what I mean? You're just like, gosh, like, I'm in a situation. And I remember just being like, what am I going to do?
But I feel like a lot of people feel that way too.
Oh,
right? Like,
so
you sit there at the funnel hacking lives or the traffic and conversion summits, and we love the people on stage, right? Like, you love them.
Oh, so much. And they deserve to be on there.
Right. And you're like,
they deserve to be on there.
This is my passion. This is what I was called to do. Yet there's somebody that's already doing it.
Yeah.
Right. And like, that's a real feeling that people have all the time.
Yes. And, but also I think simultaneously, right? Like, there's this like, it's almost like it's going to burst out of you. I think so many entrepreneurs are like, they're like, I don't know. And you might even know, but a lot of times, like, I don't even know what's in me, but I'm going to explode.
Yes.
And like, you're in this room and you're like, I don't even know what I need to do, but I got to go do something. I got to go do something right now. And it's like, I don't know. Right. And you're like, ugh. And we've had this conversation before where I think a lot of that is like, you know, you have genius in you. And it's like, I need to be seen and I need to be heard.
Yeah.
Because I know that whatever's in me, like, can actually change the world if I could only get people to actually listen. And so there I am in the back of this room thinking that, where it's like, I have these frameworks that for the people that I did manage to be like, hey, listen to me, like it works, right? Like they're getting results, like it's working,
Yeah.
right? And I'm just like, how do I get people to know what this is?
Yeah.
Like, how do I get people to know, especially when I'm just being bombarded and overshadowed by these like people, just like you said, who I don't know,
Right.
they're anywhere from 3 to 9,000 steps ahead of me.
Well, you did it.
We did.
Like, holy cow. Wait, you said that was when? April of 2019? Wait, last year?
Last year. Can
Oh
you
my
believe
gosh.
it? And I think, well, and so it's like, okay, so what do
Wait,
we do?
hold up.
Mm-hmm.
April 2019, which would have been roughly what? We're August.
I think it was May.
May. Okay, so May of last year, May, June, July. So we're like a year and 3 months ahead right now at the time of this. So we're looking at a year and 3 months ago. You had one person on your team, and you were a nobody, part-time person in the Philippines. Now you're
amazing.
Validated by Russell, spoken on his stage, #1 go-to in the design space. Well, I mean, ClickFunnels design, but really of design hacking of what you do. Have literally been on every major person in the, major person in the industry's podcast, show, Facebook group, or whatever in a year and 3 months. And how big's your team now?
I think what's interesting is honestly, I would say it actually happened in about 6 or 7.
Well, because Russell asked you well before that. Right?
Oh yeah, he about in like August or September, he asked me to speak on a stage, and then we just. But I think the thing that's interesting, it's like, how did we do it?
Right, I was gonna say, share the secrets.
How did we actually do it? Well, when I'm like, hey, come hang out with us, this big launch, that's what we're literally talking about. So I'm gonna give you guys the short answer, but then like the overarching answer, but then like
you should just open loops. You shouldn't even give us an answer. Just open loops.
Full-fledged training, like workshop where I'm actually going to take you through like the mud, the dirt, like the actual details of how did we go from nobody to now starting a 7-figure movement, #1 go-to expert in our niche within a matter of 6 or 7 months. Like I'm actually going to show you, take you behind the scenes, show you what emails we're sending out. Like
wait, so you're going to show us like how you got the attention of like Russell and stuff?
Yes. And the thing that's crazy, so here I am sitting in the back. Here's the big story, right?
Link below, guys. Link below.
Right? Is we're sitting in the back, and it's just like, oh my gosh, what are we gonna do? And all of a sudden, and I just remember thinking like, oh my gosh, like these people are just machines. Like they're just machines, right?
Yeah.
They're just like churning stuff out and like printing money. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And so all of a sudden, this thought comes into my head, which I honestly like. I'm just like a Jesus believer, so I'm like, this was divine. I'm like, I don't know.
Right.
I don't think I was like. I was like, I don't think I'm smart enough to even come up with this question, let alone the answer that came after, right? But the question that came was how do you beat a machine? How do you beat a machine? What does that look like, right? Like these established competitors.
It's like a Goliath.
Yes, how do you do it? And so, again, this is where I think the divine part comes, was immediately it was, you beat a machine with a movement.
Oof.
And I was like,
ooh, that's like.
And I remember literally I had this yellow notebook, and I was like, what? And I was like, wait, I don't know what that means, but it felt smart, right? So like,
right.
I was like, I don't know what it means. So I'm like, how do you beat a machine? You beat a machine with a movement. So I'm like, okay, you beat a machine with a movement. You beat a machine with a movement. So all of a sudden I have like all these movements going. So I'm like, a movement. So I'm starting to think about all these things, right? Where it's like, Martin Luther King, right? Civil rights movement, or Rosa Parks and the bus boycott, or Gandhi and his hunger strikes, right? Or like the Berlin Wall going down. Like I'm trying to think of like all these like history, and I'm like, what was happening? Like what was happening with these movements? So it's like, how do you beat a machine? You beat a machine with a movement. And the question then is like, well, how do you start a movement?
Yeah, how do you build a movement?
And all of a sudden I was like, oh freak. I was like, you tell stories that convert. Like if you can control the narrative, if you can tell a story that changes somebody from I don't know who you are to a follower, and then a follower to a preacher of your business, all of a sudden I was like, if I can start making what we're doing so much more than a business, but a movement and a story and identity that people can become a part of, then all of a sudden it's not me trying to take down the machine. I have an army. Of humans. So we literally went into our business, and by me and my soul little Filipina lady who's amazing and is still with me. I love her to death. Her name's Rachel. We go through and literally look at every facet of my business and I say, how can I turn this not only into a story, but a story that people would want to become a part of? So all of a sudden my story is their story. So they have vested interest because if I win, then they win.
Okay, I have to pause you here because
Yes.
like you don't know this, but like I have to go through like for all the listeners of the show that have been listening for a while, right? One of the things that we talk about and that I have talked about heavily, because we're about to shift back into interview mode the last like 4 months, 5 months or so since coronavirus really hit. I kind of went solo on the show and was like, here's how you serve your business. Here's how you like make it through coronavirus and like, you know, the shutdowns of everything.
Yeah,
like, let's just,
which we're blessed. Thank you for doing that for us.
Of course, no problem. But like we're shifting back. But one of the things that I've really been hammering home is the importance of mindset and how everything in your life is controlled by the stories that you tell yourself. And you act based upon identity. And so two of the things that you just said there was you're like, hey, listen, how do I tell a story that converts? How do I tell a story that somebody actually is going to listen to? And then you said something that's very, very key and crucial there, which is, and have an identity as a part of. Because one of the things that I like talk about so much is I'm like, guys, 100% of what you do is based out of your identity, right? And your identity, by definition, identity is your view or your belief about yourself. Right? Like that's the definition of identity. So if I say, it's the reason I own the only phone that even exists, which is an iPhone. If you have an Android, who are you? You're disgusting and scum of the earth, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you know, but like, do you see what I'm saying though? It's like, it's all based off of, it's like, what? It's not really that much better of a phone. It's just, this the identity. It's the reason I drive a Jeep. It's the reason I'm moving to Denver, right? It's like, everything is based off of how and my perception of myself. And so we follow these stories. And if we know that we can change ourselves, if we know that we can literally have whatever life we want to create based on the stories that we tell ourselves, imagine the power of, and stories are very much based in emotion, right? We first sell ourselves emotionally, then we sell ourselves logically. The exact same thing is true in business, right? If we can figure out then how to tell stories that bring an identity to the table to our following, all of a sudden you have shifted someone's identity into who you are, and they're having an identity shift into what you teach. They're hooked for life.
Totally.
And like what you just described there is just like,
well, and here's the thing. I think that's a really important, this concept, right? Hooked for life. Like what we're going to be teaching in this 5-day workshop is like, yes, like how do you create an actual content plan? Like how do you start turning your products into stories and your Facebook Lives into stories? Like how do you actually do this? But there's so many people teaching like, there's like freebies, right? Like 365 days of lives, like blah, blah. And the problem with that is that it like nobody cares to be drowning in content. Like people don't care about content. Like they don't care that you're putting out a video every day if it's a boring video or if it looks like you batch 70 videos in a row, right? Like what they want is the same reason why I wept in my bed about Rachel Hollis.
Right. Well, it's funny because it's like those 75 things. It's like, hey guys, just because you change your shirt doesn't mean we know it's not bad.
Right? Like we know. What people want is not content. What people want is a leader and a movement, and because of those two things, an identity.
Yes.
That's what your content needs to be. That's how you can just, like, as a quick example, right? Like we turned our online course from an online course, we attached a graduation to it. Where all of a sudden it was no longer like, hey, you did the course. It's like, no, you're now a graduate. And because of this, you're going to get merch, which gives you status. You're going to get a watermarked profile picture, which gives you status. Like you're going to get a shout out, which gives you status. Like,
and if you've ever read this book, you know everything is done based on status because Russell talks about it in the book.
It's crazy. It's amazing. So, and I think one of the most important things too is like once you let people into your story, right? And what you said, like they won't leave you. The reason why is this: if your story becomes their story, right? If you can do that, where it's like, oh my gosh, like Kathryn or Josh, like he gets me, like that's what's happening, right? First of all, you need to understand that if your story is their story, they're going to share your stuff because like, hey, this dude knows his words are my words. But then I think what the next part is, and what you hit it on the head, which is they won't leave you anymore because when your story becomes their story, then your solutions become their solution.
And your identity becomes their identity.
And they're like, I would be so stupid to go anywhere else for my answer because Josh is my story.
Right.
So clearly his solutions are going to be my solutions, which is how you start to climb this ladder from a nobody to number one go-to expert niche even if like I mean I literally have time in one sense against me, right? Where it's like some of my biggest competitors are literally just 30 years older than me.
Right. Right.
Like I'm never gonna beat them in quote unquote experience.
Right.
Like I'm just not gonna do it. Like I will never win. So it's like, how do you take down these machines? How do you take down these huge people? How do people interpret you as number one when you have people with loads of experience or more money? And it's when your story becomes their story, then your solutions become their solutions.
And you're going to teach us that on August 3rd.
Oh, freak yeah. Are you kidding me? Oh, yeah.
So
and, like,
August 3rd is when the
amazing.
training is taking place, or August 3rd is what? Like, what's August 3rd?
Okay, August 3rd is when we're opening up registrations for this. So again, there's going to be like you have to register for this because there's stuff on the back end and we want to make sure that you guys get sent everything. So August 3rd is when registrations are opening. So we're opening that up for the week. And then that following Monday, the 10th, is when we're just going to hit it. Boom, boom, boom.
Amazing.
Boom, boom. Giving you all the details, everything that you need, showing you again, everything we're doing for our clients. So you guys can go do it for yourself. But I think and you know this too, it's like people are sitting on gold. But they just don't quite know how to get it out into the world. And that's what we're going to show you how to do.
Guys, we're going to link that below. It is past August 3rd now, and this is airing. I do know that. We're in the middle of that. I think that August 3rd was a couple days ago. So we'll link that down below. You can register. It's 100% for free. I do know that. Yes. 5 days, you said? 5-day workshop?
Freak yeah.
Okay, 5-day workshop. It's going to be amazing. Kathryn is a very good friend of mine. I will be there. Everybody should go hang out. Go check that out. We'll link that down below. Okay, Kathryn, we have 2 more things to talk about. Do you have a heart out?
I do have a heart out, but I can be late.
Like how late? Like do you have
like 5-ish minutes?
Okay, so we have 8 or 9 minutes here. We can go.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Yeah. So we're gonna cut out this hop. We'll have to bring you back on. This is the 3rd time you've been on the show now? Or is this the 3rd time?
What a gift,
I think you're the first. No, Brad's been on here 3 times, I think. So you're the outside of Brad, but Brad doesn't really count because he's Brad. But anyway, okay, we're gonna have to come back about the women in entrepreneurship thing because
we'll come back.
And I really do want to touch on that. I think it's very important. But this is gonna be our rapid fire questions for the next 7 minutes, which is we both have to go. One of the things, guys, we normally don't prepare anything, but Kathryn and I were on a call the other day, and I was like, "You're coming on the podcast. We need your top 5 books." Yeah. Right? We need your top 5 books that absolutely everybody it's like life-changing, because 2 of these life-changing books that I've read, I found out Kathryn hadn't even heard of, and I was like, what?
And I'm not proud of it either. I want you to know that.
It's so sad. So Kathryn, we're gonna start.
I'm gonna write down everything you say right now.
All right, well, we're gonna start. We're gonna go you 1 book, me 1 book, you 1 book, me 1 book, and we're gonna go 5. So number 1, top 5 books, and we're gonna say in no particular order because it's impossible to organize in top 5 fashion.
It's impossible, but I am actually though gonna give you this one in order because it was the first. It's like I'm gonna give you books that like shook my soul and I never was the same again.
Okay,
that's what I'm gonna give you.
My number 1 book is the same thing, but there's one caveat to this: no religious books. So we're not going Bible or Book of Mormon or anything like that. These are like business mindset storyline books, just nothing religious oriented, because that doesn't count, because obviously like Bible, Book of Mormon is like number 1. Of course, we love those.
We love us some Jesus.
Okay. Yes.
Okay. First book, and again, this seems a little bit crazy, but it is a book called "I Will Teach You to Be Rich" by Ramit Sethi.
I will teach you to be rich.
Have you read it?
No, but I know about it.
It is a personal finance book, which you're just like, that feels hard.
Yeah, super not sexy.
Okay, not sexy at all. Let me tell you why it's absolutely remarkable. Number 1.
You have 30 seconds, by the way, because we got to get through all of them. Go.
Okay, this is remarkable because he takes such boring concepts and he describes them and makes them fun. It was this beautiful example, not of personal finance, but this is how you instruct.
Okay.
This is how you instruct. And it was like mind-blowing for me to realize that. Okay,
I Will Teach You to Be Rich is Kathryn's number 1 book. Who's it by?
Yes. Ramit.
Oh, of course.
And his last name's Sethi.
He's amazing. I do follow him. Okay.
Yeah, he's my first internet marketing love. Yours.
My first number 1 book. It is a must-read book for anybody. You know how much I love mindset and personal development or whatever. It's a book I actually have in front of me. It's called Psycho-Cybernetics. All right, it's by Maxwell Maltz. This book is literally the greatest book of all time, I'm pretty sure, outside of our religious books. This book, basically, it's written from a guy who used to do surgery on people's faces, right? So like reconstruct faces and like different things like that. And it's all based on identity and how we perceive ourselves. And it's basically how you can literally go in, tap into the power of your subconscious mind. And it literally says on the front, improve your self-image, learn to use your positive past, set and achieve worthwhile goals, develop compassion, self-respect, and forgiveness, cultivate the power of rational thinking, and discover the key to a happier, more successful life. And it is so freaking true. The stories in here, the mindset that you will have, and the understanding of what goes on inside your mind, absolutely must read. Maxwell Maltz, Psycho-Cybernetics.
Amazing.
Okay.
Okay, listen, I'm going to go tactical one more time before I go bigger picture. But next one, .com Secrets, like I talked about, is the first thing where all of a sudden I was like, everything makes sense. I don't understand how people exist in business without that book.
This may be my first $100,000 right here. First $100,000 right here.
.com Secrets.
.com Secrets. All right, that's going to be yours. Okay, my second one is Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. It is by a guy named Joe Dispenza. It was a toss-up. So he has another really good book that I'm not going to put on my top 5, but it's like right there, which is one is Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, and the other one is it's another mind book. I can't think of the name off the top of my head. I have them both, but basically it is, you know, all this woo-woo, like personal development, like manifestation type crap, and like, oh, training your mind. It's the science behind it. It literally goes through and shows you and proves to you, like, oh, your positive thinking actually does this to your brain. Oh, here's how actually like thoughts are formed. Here's how your subconscious acts. Like, it's the whole science behind a lot of like what's in this book, which is just phenomenal, because this is like, will teach you it and make you believe it. And the other one is also really good, but it's very science focused. 2 very mindset books.
Amazing. Okay, next one, mindset for me. Amazing. It's called The Inner Game of Tennis. Have you heard of that before?
No. Oh my God.
Oh, it's amazing. Okay. This coach, he coached like all these like world-class athletes. And then eventually, like when he got older, he just went to these like ritzy country clubs and would just like teach people tennis.
Nice.
And what he would do, the basic concept of it is people will they'd always like hit it in the net with their backhand, like always hit in the net, always hit in the net. And it was like this part of retraining your mind to not do that. And the way that he did that is rather focus on, hey, get the ball over the net. He would just be like, all I want you to focus on is like moving your wrist from here to here. That's the only thing we're going to focus on first. So like, don't think about the big thing. Just think about like when you backhand, you just want to keep it at this angle here over and over and over again. And he would just like progressively like move through these things and to break down these like big mindset goals are like, oh, I can't do this.
Love it.
And just like focus on the action.
Love
and
it.
it is like this like brilliant application to life. So Inner Game of Tennis, unreal.
Love it. Okay. My book number 3, this one, it is, I hated reading. I growing up, high school, I made a public declaration when I graduated. I was like, I'll never read another book ever again, right? And then I started reading like .com Secrets and Rich Dad Poor Dad and things like that. Mind-blowing books, absolutely amazing, very tactical. And I was like, well, I'm never going to read a story book ever again because stories don't teach me anything. How foolish am I? Joke's on me. But this book is not tactical, but it is the most fascinating book I have ever read in my entire life. And it is tactical in the sense that it explains the media and it explains how the entirety of our entire country and media and interpretation, everything is formed. And that is called Trust Me, I'm Lying. And it's by Ryan Holiday. It is the most mind-blowing book you will ever read, and you will never trust anything in the media ever again. He breaks down how he was a media manipulator, okay? Like with blog posts, whatever, they would throw elections certain ways. They would go through and like do whole entire billion-dollar companies. Like everything is all this perception, and it would all start with like low-level blogs that would trickle all the way up to like CNN, and they would do these crazy case studies where they would make up completely random things, and it would be broadcast in mainstream news as fact, and it would have absolutely not true, like no grounding in it whatsoever, but yet the whole entire world operates off it. It is one of the most mind-blowing books I've ever read in my it is the most mind-blowing book I've ever read in my life. Trust Me, I'm Lying by Ryan Holiday. Every marketer needs to read it because it helps you understand how your audience thinks.
Amazing.
Okay.
Next one for me, C.S. Lewis. It's called The Great Divorce. It's amazing.
Divorce.
And it's basically like he tells a story of what he thinks happens when we die. And he believes that it's not necessarily this like, oh, like if you're good, you go to heaven. If you're bad, you go to hell. But rather it's we accept essentially like the glory that we think we deserve. And so he like follows this story of all these different people.
I'm ordering that right now as soon as we get off.
It is mind blowing, but also this like beautiful thing. And you like see all these applications in life where it's like, oh, well, I'm not good enough for that.
Cool.
I'm not good enough for that. And anyway, it's just this awesome thing that you can have the life that you want if you simply claim it.
Wow, I love that. Okay, we're going to go through these last couple here fast. My number 4 is Principles by Ray Dalio. It's a big book, huge book. Billionaire, self-made billionaire investor, beat the stock market by so many times over. Like you have to have at least, I think it's $500 million liquid to invest with him. Like that's how much money you have to have. Okay. But basically, it is his guide, both in business and in life. It's a 2-part book of how he breaks everything down. He goes, the reason people are not successful is because they don't know how to make decisions. So here's the framework on why and how I make all the decisions that I make, right? And it's like literally a thought process of like, here's how we do scorecards in business. Here's how I do it in life. Here's how I build teams. Here's how I build the whole thing. It is phenomenal. Very long read, very thick book, 100% worth it. I think it's on Bill Gates' like top 3 or top 5 things to read, books to read. Phenomenal book. Took me like a long time to read it, but it's there.
Amazing. Okay,
Book
last
number 5.
one for me, super quick. Also around this principle of principles. It's called Increase in Learning. It's by this guy named David Bednar. It's like somewhat religious because he breaks down the Bible, but what he does is he shows you how to interpret the Bible. Amazing. In the sense that things could be broken down into doctrines, principles, and applications. And
Amazing.
when we understand how to see things that way and teach things that way, that's when people will actually follow. And
I love
go.
it.
It's
I love it.
Changed my life.
All right, guys. Last one by me really, really fast. This book called Influence. It is The Psychology of Persuasion. It is I learned so much things about sales from this book. It is basically how people make decisions, how people think, what causes people to act, everything about human psychology in regards to like sales, decision making, things like that for marketing. Absolutely must-have book. Everybody needs it. All right.
You're awesome.
Kathryn, I want to be respectful of your time. Thank you so much for coming on. One more time.
Thank you.
August 3rd, right?
August 3rd is when registration starts. August 10th is when the training begins. If you happen to listen to this post August 10th, that's okay. You can still hit the link. We'll get you caught up on the back end.
And replays.
But you want to make sure that you hit it on the 10th. Again, we're going to show you how to become the #1 go-to expert in your niche, start a 7-figure movement, all by telling stories that convert, take down the machines.
I love it. Kathryn, thank you so much for your time. Guys, Kathryn Jones, everybody, we will link all that down below. Go check it out. Kathryn, you're amazing. Thank you so much for your time. Guys, as always, hustle, hustle. God bless. Do not be afraid to think different because those of us that think different are going to be the ones that change the world. I love you all, and I will see you on the next episode. Take it easy, fam. Peace.
Thanks, Chad.